So, what is the ideal release strategy? Is it singles, or is it an EP, or is it an album? Well, particularly for an emerging artist, we advise singles. Now, the reason we advise singles is because fundamentally it's all about discoverability when you're releasing music for the first time as a new artist. So, if you have, let's say, five singles, you would have five opportunities to be pitching for support from the DSPs, digital service providers. That's Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Amazon Music, the list goes on. You'd have five opportunities to pitch to radio, if that's appropriate for you. You'd have five opportunities to pitch to blogs and other PR outlets. Maybe five opportunities to pitch a single for the potential single placement. And arguably most importantly, you've got five incredibly rich moments of content. Nothing stronger than releasing a single as content to engage your hopefully growing audience. So, singles are an amazing mechanism of promotion. Now, it's important to mention that these singles should be derived from an EP or a body of work, because across those singles, there has to be a cohesiveness, an identity, a sonic identity, so that each single you drop is reinforcing the understanding and expectation of your growing audience. So you wouldn't want to drop a R&B single for your first single and then a heavy metal single for your second single. Extreme example. But what you end up doing is just alienating both of those populations. So it's not a great strategy. But if you have an identity running through your EP, and therefore each single is reinforcing and supporting your statement to your audience, well, that's a great strategy, and that is a good plan and blueprint for turning an audience into fans over time. An album as a new artist is arguably a waste of time. I'm sorry if that sounds a bit harsh, but you don't have an audience, you don't have any vehicle or mechanism or support club to really make sure that that album cuts through and does what you would hope it would do, which is reach a lot of people. You really need a fan base before you release an album, because you're going to want a fan base to really charge forward with the album by streaming it and playlisting it, of course, but sharing it across their socials and across their friendship groups and connections. That's how an album really kind of builds its growth. So until you've got that audience, pause. Don't accelerate too quickly into writing and releasing an album. Focus on those singles. They're the way to build momentum. And that's key. You really need that momentum to start kind of affecting the growth curve, if you will. It's also important to think about those promotional outlets and vehicles such as blogs and radio and the DSPs. They're not going to stream an entire album. It's only going to lead with one single. And then once that music's out, if you drop an album or an EP in one go without doing the singles, every single one of those songs, apart from the one you're leading with, is considered old. So to retrospectively try to get support is close to impossible. It's very challenging, which means it's not a great strategy. So you have your body of work, you've got your 5 or 6 singles. That's typically what we like to work with for new artists. As a new artist, it's unlikely that you've got relationships existing with editors at blogs or DJs at radio or producers at radio or editors at some DSPs. Who knows? It's unlikely, but it means that you need that time to build those relationships and those support mechanisms. Also, you do not want to confuse your growing audience. So we speak with many artists who might want to release a single every month. The trouble is with that, well, one, it doesn't give you enough time to do all the pre-promotion. And two, you can confuse your messaging. What if you're halfway through your first single campaign and then you're now started talking about your next single, where your first single, again, suddenly gets on a Spotify playlist? Well, what does your audience think? What are they following? Are you still on the first single? Is it the second single? What has this artist released? I don't really know where I am. That's quite a dangerous territory to be in. So try to avoid that. Try to plan out so each single has time to do its business. And there's another thing here about anticipation, excitement, expectation. With a growing audience, you don't want to over deliver. You just don't, because brutally honestly, they'll get bored quickly. You kind of want to be in that place where you're starting to get comments and notes and DMs about when's the next single out. They're getting excited. And actually, it's not a bad thing for you to say they have to wait and to give some build up for the next thing. Like, it's not unhealthy to make people wait to want more, because it can build excitement and a bit of buzz and a bit of interest around it. So make sure you're not over delivering and kind of going through your music too rapidly.